you go to college there?
Penn State. Mm-hmm.
We are live.
Alive.
Almost got a little bit of the stitching bitch behind the scenes. Most days we're like, where did you live? Where'd you grow up?
Where'd you grow up? What did you do?
Yeah. So, Katrina, have you ever done a Kickstarter?
I have not. We've been talking about it for a long time, but we have never pulled the trigger.
I think don't do it.
You guys are you're 93% funded.
Yeah. I mean, but like not without a fucking insane fight. Yeah.
So what I would say is like prepare your anus.
Call us.
Prepare your anus. Like build up intestinal fortitude. Make sure you have someone like Cat Rogers like in the wings to like it's not something one person can possibly do. You will need a team. And that, but I think like, I don't know. It's been an interesting learning experience. I'll be very happy to like pass along things that we've learned and things that we were like, wow, that was a bad idea. Let's course correct real quick.
Yeah.
If you do ever end up, doing something like this, please call us first and we will give you like a full master class on like what not to do, what to do. And Michelle's right. Like you do need a fucking team. And you need to be ready and like booked out with podcasts and everything like 6 weeks in advance. That was
the thing that we learned, but also
that we didn't do.
Awesome conversations. Like I got to talk with Penzak, and he and I, it's funny, like we're really good friends and we never just talk. We're both really work motivated. So if it's a job thing, then we'll have a conversation.
I think that's the reason we never pulled the trigger on it, just because it was like, just building out your YouTube page in the first place is a lot of work. And so, we focused on that first. We kind of did the reverse. We were like, let's build the page first and self-fund it. And but Kickstarter's always been on the table for us. It's like you guys said, it's like another full-time job for a couple of weeks.
I've had good results with Patreon, but Patreon also is a full-time job. Like
so much work.
You are there.
I would never keep up with it, like the Patreon stuff movement. I would fail.
I'll admit, I did not keep up with my Patreon until my wife got involved and helped. Like, because I don't know if you know this about me, I'm really bad at scheduling things and keeping track of time.
I mean, we might both know that about you.
It's just it's a big secret. But my wife, who is like king of spreadsheets, helps a great deal. But we're here to talk about Katrina. Everybody knows you, but also, why don't you let everybody know?
Yeah, let's do a little intro of
the music. Talk about the music.
Oh yeah, my music. Well, I'm Katrina. I'm probably best known as a paranormal investigator. You guys have seen me on Paranormal State, Paranormal Lockdown, and Portals to Hell. And I've been friends with Michelle and colleagues with Michelle since 2006 when we first started working together on Paranormal State. And outside of my work in the paranormal, I'm a producer for television and also a singer-songwriter. So definitely stay in the creative side of things because it keeps me sane, I think, as much as it can. But yeah, I have a lot of different interests and just happy to be here to help support your guys' project.
I really appreciate it because I know how hard it is to carve a little bit of time.
Oh yeah, no, I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, so are we going around? You want to go?
At this point, I mean, I'm Michelle Belanger. I write a lot of books. I do silly things. I amuse myself not just through music, but actually by writing role-playing games. Like that's sort of my fun escape, is to make little games, mostly spooky. Because I mean, I can't get away from the spooky.
No.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I mean, a lot of you do know because I've been like on lives forever for the past 30 days. But my name is Fen Alankus. I am an eclectic witch, a paranormal investigator, and the producer of New Blood TV, which is, the umbrella for two shows. One is an episodic show, which is just like us, doing the standard, like going to places that have reports of high strangeness and attempting to make contact. The other show
is a autobiographical journey through a deeply personal initiatory experience as Fen tries to figure out how am I part of the woo and what
Yeah, that one's more like a group of people following like an initial synchronicity and then going on like a wild fucking ride. And that ride is still happening, like even in the midst of this Kickstarter. So.
Yeah, the synchronous connections that have happened, like with Jack and Shane, has been really
super weird. Yeah.
Yeah, they shared some stuff. Like Shane has the chant on something.
Has the what?
The chant.
What chant?
The one that we do on New Blood.
Are you for real?
Yeah.
But that doesn't make any sense.
Right.
How?
I won't reveal any more because like it's something that's very but an audio file was shared with me and I was like, and Kat was like, "Do you hear what I hear?" And I was like, "How though? Like how?"
Oh, you mean he wasn't doing the chant? It was like some other voice coming through?
They did an EVP session somewhere.
Oh, okay. That's why I was like, wait a second. Yeah. We did do a ritual.
No, they did. They're long before anything. So like there's still weird synchronicities and things. And I hope I'm not giving anything like really deeply personal away, but like it's still like I'm still slowly like my brain is like taking this in. Like the level of synchronicities with this have been really freaking weird.
Yeah.
But not to derail the conversation because there's so much to talk about.
Well, there's lots that I want to talk with Katrina about, like in the paranormal TV space. But before that, I have to do my spiel, which is that Kickstarter is happening right now, y'all. We literally have like 37 hours left. Like this is it. I think we're at what are we at? 62,460. So I think that's still in the like 93% funded. It would be amazing if you could help us bring these paranormal shows to life. I mean, like, it's not just that we're making another paranormal TV show. This is different. I bet everybody says that, but these really are different. You've never seen a documentary like this about vampires, first of all. This is where we start. And then the synchronicities kind of like take us in all different weird fucking directions. And you've also not seen like an entirely queer cast and crew do this kind of work. There have been paranormal investigators. I remember you told me that one team.
But it's increasingly difficult to get your foot through the door. I mean, as Katrina knows, as pretty much anyone who's not coded as a performatively straight white guy. Like it's the reality.
Oh, thank you, Lonnie. Dear sweet Lonnie. Yes, go there. Go to the Lonnie Scott link. And you can pledge, any amount. You can pledge $1 even. And if you don't have any money, just share it if you feel drawn to what we talk about tonight. You can also check out what we're doing in all its forms on newblood.tv. You can meet the crew. You can see more about the shows and like what we're actually investigating and our angles and all there.
There's a very tiny possibility if people like really pull out all the stops that before the end of this conversation we will have funded because there's like $4,000. Like there's less than $4,000.
You're gonna hit it. I know you're gonna hit it.
There would be screaming.
You're gonna hear screaming from like multiple states because there's so many people involved.
To pledge, just pop over to Kickstarter and search for New Blood. We're the thing that will come up for that. We were on like a project that we support or back sort of thing. And so we're Project We Love is the official term. So it should be fairly easy to find on Kickstarter. And Lonnie posted a link in the chat if you're over here on Facebook, I think. But yeah, just pop in and give us some money to make cool TV and get some really cool swag.
Yeah, let's make the paranormal queer again. Let's do it.
Okay, now we are done with the business side of things, and we can like fun conversations.
Well, can I ask an initial question that I've been like dying to ask you? What is it like being a woman in paranormal television? I mean, I realize that every industry is dominated by dudes, but being somebody who worked in television and film in LA, and like a lot of time I was the only female in the room. Like, how do you manage that? Especially when I imagine you're like constantly just around the dudes and sometimes maybe not like the most fun dudes to be around occasionally. Not that we would ever say any names or anything, but
right, sure. Well, I will say it's hit and miss. So it's not all men. You know, I think that's the biggest takeaway is that I've had wonderful relationships with men in the field and in television production. That being said, are there men who don't want me to have the spotlight? Absolutely. Are there men who have treated me like shit? Absolutely. You know, is there kind of this level of sexism that exists? 100%. So it's, you know, I think on a bigger scale, the biggest things I've seen have been there's this idea in television. And I'll tell you the story of how this came up was in like 2011. It was after Paranormal State ended. I was working with one of the producers who had worked on Paranormal State and also a woman. And she and I were friends. And I was like, you know, why don't I just have like my own show? Like, why do I have to be behind a guy? Like, let's just do that. She wanted to do that. She saw the value in that. And so when she started talking to networks, one of the networks said to her, a woman can't lead this type of show because men don't want their information from women.
I got literally the exact same thing. Like, our audience does not find women intellectually credible because I gave up pitching stuff. Like, everybody's like, why don't you have your own show yet? Well, if I tell you the reason why, I'm going to sound angry and bitter. I am a little bit, but mostly I'm frustrated because it shouldn't be that way.
Well, what's dumb about it? Here's my biggest thing with it. Okay, let's say you're television network person and your name is Jordan. Okay, your name is Jordan. And Jordan at the television network is like, you know what? Yeah, men aren't going to like this. Okay, here's the thing. Here's my question to Jordan. You still have an audience out there who is female, non-binary. And what about those people? Like, it's even if you hate women, even if you're just thinking like, I mean, just monetarily, like you're leaving money on the table because you're completely ignoring this other, like 50% of your audience, like that would tune in to watch if you gave them what they want to see. And I always go back to, this is another great example. First Wives Club. You guys remember that movie? Okay, great movie, great film with 3 amazing actresses who have proven themselves time and time again. That movie was such a hit that when it came out, the studio said it was a fluke.
Yeah. How many flukes do we have to have though? Like Wonder Woman. Like,
it was a fluke. Yeah. You have 3 award-winning actresses who are critically acclaimed in one movie together. It did amazing. And their explanation was it's a fluke. It wasn't a fluke. It's just, guess what? You have audience members who actually want to see that. Right. You have female audiences who actually want to connect with other females. Like, who'd have thought, you know?
Yeah, one of the things that always stands out to me is, so Supernatural, the show, is like adjacent to paranormal stuff. It always was interesting to me that like it was cheek to jowl with Paranormal State, and like clearly someone one way or the other was like taking fashion tips, either what they Ryan in or what they dressed the Winchester brothers in. I could never figure out like which way it was going.
Yeah.
But like Dean, I was like, oh wow, weirdly he looks like he's dressed like, okay, anyway. But they put that show together initially to very firmly appeal to a male audience. There's muscle cars, there's a bro relationship, it's like guns and weapons and like this whole like quest to heal your relationship with your father figure. And their audience is predominantly women and
women.
Yeah,
like 100%. I was gonna say,
and like fervently, like that is what kept that show going. And I mean, it just kept going, like straight off the rails in a way that it just like had fun with itself.
Yeah,
and it's extraordinarily successful, not because the dudes wanted to watch the muscle cars and the Winchester brothers like be brotastic, but because there was a completely different audience they didn't even realize they could appeal to.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I think is frustrating in general in media, not just paranormal television, but just in general. And, you know, with probably every field, you know, I only know because this is really the only field I've ever been in. But yeah, you know, but I have had champions who are men who have very much champion for me and see the ridiculousness of this.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, because it's not like all men are bad. We're going from the women haters club to the men haters club.
Yeah.
There is a bias there, and it's a frustrating bias, and it's like it's baked in.
It is very much baked in. And also, you know, I think one of those things that I saw personally, so I have a hormone disorder, and because of that, my weight constantly fluctuates, as anyone would know with a hormone disorder. And I have found the biggest, I guess it would be labeled under sexism. The biggest sexist remarks I've had have been about my body. And what's interesting about it is like the online bullying I've had from it, or even internally, which has happened. It doesn't, my male colleagues never hear that, because nobody cares what they look like.
Right.
Nobody cares if they're overweight. Nobody cares if they have a body issue. But with women, to be valued on television, to for people to accept that you deserve a job in the field that you've worked hard in, you have to look a certain way to be able to have that credential, to be able to pass the gatekeepers.
Yeah,
and again, that
what?
Right. And that's not everybody. And I think I've seen a large change, especially over the last couple of years with the body positivity movement. But I would say the first half of my career very much saw it and very much heard it. People were never afraid to tell me what they thought of my body. And it's funny because I'm like, well, I'm not like a fitness model. What's your problem? Like,
I remember back in Paranormal State days, like throwing hands with people quietly off.
Oh yeah.
As they were just like, it's like, why is that even relevant? Shut up. Like,
it's not, because we had people who were several hundred pounds on that show, but that was never an issue because they were male.
Guys,
you know,
okay for being big. Like,
yeah.
Like, you know, we even like kind of like, oh, he's just a big cuddly bear.
Yeah. So I think that's where I think that was probably the biggest point. I saw it also with anytime I had a leadership role and a male colleague of mine didn't, there was a lot of pushback against that kind of stuff.
Also, like the number of times that you were put in, like, go into the bedroom and have this weird sexed up spirit like hit on you, or like go lock yourself in the bathtub in your underwear, like just weird stuff you have to do. Like where it's like, but like,
did you have to do that?
Yes. So the story behind that, I'll try to make it as brief as I can, but we did, because there was a reason for it, and I still stand. Like, I understand what it was about. I don't necessarily know that it was completely like a male female thing. Because what had happened was there was this location. It was in Oregon. It was in Eugene, Oregon. It was a bed and breakfast, and women who stayed in one particular room, these women would have very sexual experiences with an unknown like entity that was there. And when I actually went and scouted that location as a producer, and when I went there, they put me in that room to sleep for the duration I was there. And I did wake up at some point, and I remember I had fallen asleep, I think just in underwear, like I didn't wear pajamas or whatever. And I had fallen asleep, and I woke up to, when somebody's like putting both their hands on the side of your head on a bed, and you can hear it and feel like the pressure go back. That's what I woke up to. And I was alone. So, but I remember not feeling scared. Like, it wasn't a scary experience. It was almost comforting. And what's interesting is every woman who has had an experience with whatever that is in that room has said the same thing. It's not scary. It's something like a big hug that you get almost. And so when we did the episode, no one had told me that they had been thinking about this. So we go on location, and it's like a big surprise. Let's surprise Katrina with this. And they were like, so they're like, the whole point of it was these women were vulnerable when they were there. You're a seasoned investigator. How do we make you vulnerable? And what did you do last time you were here? Which was like, okay, well, I was in my underwear. And also, how am I going to be vulnerable? Well, have a group of cameramen like with me as I'm naked. I don't know. I guess that was the thing. But also they were like, if you don't want to, this is what pushed me. I was very hesitant about doing it. But on the other hand, I'm like, well, it's just like being in a bathing suit. So like, what's the big deal, I guess? But the alternative was, they're like, if you don't do it, we're going to have this intern do it. Who she's a dear friend of mine. And she was, to this day, she's a dear friend of mine. And she was very, very young at the time. So I don't know, gosh, we were in our mid-20s, so she was probably very early 20s. And I was like, there's no way you guys are gonna that's not fair. Like, because that's such a power dynamic.
Mhm.
And I'm like, that's not fair to even ask her that question. So I actually had a long talk with Lorraine Warren about it. And I was just like, I don't know how I feel about this. And it took me several hours to agree to it. I think like pretty much the whole day. But yeah, it was at the same time though, I there was probably a level of, oh, scary location, girl in a bra. Like, ooh, like, you know what I mean?
I know enough of the people behind the scenes where I'm like, at least somebody thought about that. But like having more context really helps, because there is some value in recreating stuff. I didn't know about the previous experience.
Yeah.
Well, remember, I tore apart a pair of jeans, like cut them off so that I could go into that swimming pool in the Puck Wedgie episode, because the family was like talking about how like the kids were getting dunked by something. And I was like, I like swimming. I'll go in the pool.
Wait, I don't remember you doing this.
Oh, I didn't tell. I was like, I have a swimming suit. No, I just took a pair of jeans and I was like, I'm going to the pool.
I don't remember you doing that.
They cut it out entirely because all of the cameras just fritzed out, just completely fritzed out. But I got pulled under the water. It was the coolest thing.
Whoa.
The other reason they cut it out is I have an atypical response if something is really, really like, this is effed up.
Yeah.
I laugh. So I broke.
What do we do with that?
Came out of the water and I was cackling, like it resounded off of the other houses in this little like Massachusetts town, because I was like, I can't believe that just happened. But like something like I could feel, not as distinct as a hand, but like something at my ankle and at my calf, like grabbed my leg and dunked me under, like pulled me back.
Whoa.
Held me very briefly underwater. Now the thing was it didn't feel malicious. Like it could have held me, but it yanked me down to dunk me. And I was like, this feels, I mean, I grew up in swimming pools. This feels like the stuff that kids do to one another to horse around, which is also why I was laughing. They're like, you should be scared. And I'm like, first of all, something physically pulled me under the water. Like, holy moly. Like, did you catch that? Yeah. And also, one, you can tell the family that, yes, the kids are not lying. They're being pulled underwater by some invisible force. Two, I don't think you should worry about it, but if they're not strong swimmers, don't put them in the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I go to like a haunted house or something, I actually do, my first response is to laugh. I don't know if it's a nervous thing or something, but I will just like crack up. Yeah, I saw that. We're at 99%.
Oh my gosh, you guys. Wait, yeah, what's the leftover what do you need now? $400.
Yeah, like
come on, y'all. Come on. We got
donate to their Kickstarter and you get to see 2 new shows.
Yeah, you'll get to hear me cackle probably.
But it's so important because like there's here's the thing, and this is what I talk about when we do Travel the Dead and everything, is that the reason you're seeing so many people flood to YouTube right now is because TV is in such a weird flux. Yes. And especially with the paranormal genre, it goes in waves, and networks know they want it, but they don't know exactly what they want. And as many meetings as I've been in where I've tried to tell them, from talking to audience members face to face at conferences, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not going to work. Nobody's going to, don't even waste your time on it. It's like and not every exec, because there are some execs that are super tuned in and they understand the genre and they understand the audience, but too many of them, it's like cheap thrills. And I'm like, that's not what hooks people in. You got to understand. It's so, if you're a fan of the genre, it is so deeply personal for various reasons. Either you've had an experience yourself or you love to be that person who gets scared, but it's still not about cheap thrills. Like, people need something deeper than that. And that's what I like about what you guys are doing and why it's very important to support New Blood TV. That's my spiel.
Yeah. It's been a while. Sorry. I'll let you.
Thank you, Lonnie. No, you go ahead, Michelle.
Well, it took me a while to realize. Okay, first let me say, Lonnie Scott says donate $500 a day and send Lonnie proof, and you will get a free hypnosis session.
Oh, I want that.
Which is amazing.
Let me tell you, Lonnie, I dithered for years about having somebody do hypnotherapy on me for a past life thing to like get little pieces that I didn't think I'd gotten thoroughly myself. And Lonnie was the first person that I trusted with that. And it's a very big trust fall, and he is very good at what he does.
I am going to check him out. I swear to God, I had a past life thing happen to me today. I was watching a video, and I don't want to like give it away, because if I ever do get a regression, like I don't want somebody to see this and then like use it against me. But
just talk about how it felt.
It was like immediate fear popped up in every fiber of my body and it was a sound. It wasn't so much the visuals, it was the sounds. And I was like, it just like immediate anxiety and fear.
Sounds and smells are pretty powerful triggers. The thing I was going to say about the industry is it took me a while. You know, I came in sort of, I face planted in doing paranormal TV. It was because Elfie and Josh liked my books, and they were just like, we just want somebody who's got a, I was just like to go back to Supernatural, I was Jim Beaver's character. I was the person that they would like call, you know, without the whiskey, late at night of like, we've got a this and a this and a this, and like something's howling in the woods. And like, I'd just like go through the books here and be like, well, I think that like, where are you again? Okay, that's probably this. Try a puree of strawberries and the scent of petrichor. I don't know. That's what the book says. But it took me a while to realize that at least a fair number of the execs in charge of these shows just see paranormal reality TV as an outgrowth of the horror genre, and we are effectively doing found footage.
Yeah.
And like a lot of their decisions make more sense if you realize that they think that they're just making horror movies with regular people running around for a sort of sense of verisimilitude and like, you know, the messiness of people, and also to avoid things like, oh, I don't know, the WGA and SAG. Because it's important, like this current spate of stuff, like the popularity coincides with the writer's strike.
Oh shit.
Oh yeah.
Seriously.
100% funded.
You guys did it.
Holy fuck. I love you all.
Lyria, we did it.
That's awesome. Congratulations, guys.
Jack. Hi, Jack. We love you.
What?
Yay. We did it. Holy mother. You are funded.
Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. I feel like you're
Michelle, we're gonna do grants.
Oh, that's just, you know,
free. We're gonna do the circuit, but we are never doing a Kickstarter again.
Oh my god!
Oh my god! Thank you, everyone.
I'm good.
We did it.
I don't have confetti. I would throw my cards, but I wouldn't.
Holy shit!
That's awesome. Wait, so can I ask what happens now that you guys are fully funded?
So now I take a break and sleep for a week.
I think actually all of us have scheduled.
All of us need to.
Like we are taking time off. Like we need to like at least 7 days of fallow time. Like I'm enforcing it with people because this is how you get sick if we just keep going.
Yeah, true.
Take a break and then
we'll do post-production. So there are a few more things to like wrap up filming wise for season 1 for both shows. We'll do that. And we've already started post-production, like the initial editing of Inhuman Beings season 1. The other show, New Blood, is going to be a giant. So that'll take an editing team. There's going to be, you know, an assistant editor, and then Michelle and I will be in that editing room, you know, probably getting those downloads every day, the dailies essentially, and crafting that narrative. Because as you know, like even though you're doing something that's true and real and it's a documentary, you do still have to like find the narrative that like wants to be told, you know?
Yeah, you can't just like, here's all the raw footage.
Here's what happened.
Right.
Yeah. So we have to kind of dig that out. And we have so many amazing people already on board helping us with that. And then we have a like stuff that I'm so excited to reveal. Like we've, you know, locked in incredible artists that will be doing the intros to both of these shows that like y'all know about, and we're not allowed to say anything yet, but we get to start revealing that kind of stuff. And then we basically need to get like into pre-production for season 2, especially for New Blood, because New Blood is this like beast that doesn't ever stop going. And we have to kind of, I don't want to miss anything, you know, I don't want to miss any of that footage. So it's a lot. There's a lot to do. It's like one big thing and I'm like relieved, but it's only like a quick relief and then we'll be back at work.
Yeah.
One of the bonuses, like one of the best benefits with New Blood is, I mean, I have a haunted Airbnb, and I'll be honest, like one of the reasons that I bought Inspiration House was I was tired of doing TV shows where like we couldn't get a release for a location. And I was tired of doing ghost hunts at places that didn't have air conditioning and a comfortable place to sleep.
Or pee.
So I was like, I would like all of these. I would like all of these things. So I bought it to be sort of like my, I don't know, my psychic trying ground where people could come and sleep over. We could like, I could show them like what the whole stuff was, but also when filming, I could be like, look, we have a place that I own. We don't have to go through all those hoops and releases and things. Like we've even got like all of the artwork in there. Like we've got a spreadsheet of release forms. So we don't have to like, you know, hurry and take all the art off of the walls.
Oh, yeah.
Is like a weird side that you don't get to see with the finished product. But like if you don't have a release form for somebody's work, you can't have it there. And like logos and things, that has to be covered up. Like it's a whole thing. Yeah. So like we know we can just have people come up to Oberlin and hang out and we've got filming. But you know, getting people to travel and like paying for all of that. Like so now we have money in the war chest. We know we can reliably pay the really cool people that we already had of like, hey, if this happens, can we have you? And we get to make it shine.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think that one of the coolest parts about this project, I mean, it's all cool, except for the Kickstarter was so hard. Other than that, like, what's so great about it is that, like, we are scrappy as fuck. Like, we are, like, just, like, piecing shit together. But, like, if you put all of the experience together and, like, it's just decades and decades of experience in film, our cinematographer worked on huge projects, you know, like big films like Booksmart, you know, and has worked with like many A-list celebrities for a very
Booksmart, the comedy that Olivia Wilde directed. Yeah. I've seen that movie so many times. So good. I loved it.
Love that movie.
Yes.
It's so, you know, we really nerd out about like the entire cast and crew. There's so much talent here. And you know this, and this is something I want to talk to you about more, Katrina, is, you know, when you go the self-production route, you got to get like creative in how you convince people who are used to getting like a certain rate, right? Like, hey, okay, can we do deferred payment? You really do have to be scrappy. And I'm just wondering, like, what was your like scrappy experience with?
Yeah, because let's talk about Travel the Dead.
Travel the Dead,
really impressive.
That was your thing.
Yeah, we sold a lot of foot fetish photos. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Like, I mean,
no shame if you did, because
there's actually really good money in that. But
like I said, like no shame in that. Like my favorite photographer for the longest time, brilliant with light and everything, but like on the side, like that was totally his thing. He just really liked cute feet.
There's money in it, and no shame in anybody who's into it. But no, I'm just making a joke. We didn't do that.
We started an OnlyFans, just the three of us.
I know, with our feet.
I need an OnlyFans.
There's a market for that, Michelle. You should totally do that.
Okay. So Loki, Okay.
My wife.
I have helped to raise money mostly for like the National Committee for Sexual Freedom at kink events by selling basically vampire bites. So we would like do auctions and like would raise thousands of dollars for just me to come in and be a vampire for like 5 minutes on someone. So
wait, you would like bite someone?
Yeah.
And but that was their kink, like they wanted to be bitten.
Yeah, like the whole vampire.
Oh, yeah. Would they also dress up?
Well, they were at a kink event, so they were dressed usually.
I guess,
not much of anything. And no, I, it's not something. I will do things for charity that I am like reading tarot cards. Like when I'm like, I don't do psychic readings for hire, but I will do like energy work, or I have in fact fed off of people for charity with very clear boundaries around it. And like people will put a lot of money in for that. And like if I really wanted to be like literally an OnlyFans, oh heck yes. that could be a thing. And also I'm 50, I'm a little tired.
Yeah, right.
OnlyFans. You're onto something.
I do
if you
think there's
dig
a
on the
market.
internet, you can still find a lot of those. Like I did a lot of fetish modeling. Like there's still a lot. Like when I was going through like the back end stuff for Paranormal State, like they found things and they're like, "Is this you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." Are you sure that's you? I'm like, "Yes, that's me, and I have no shame with it." Like, yes, I look very good in that much black leather and those many chains and whips. Thank you very much.
Not many people can say that.
That's true. That's true. But we
Anyway,
totally
completely
sidetracked.
derailing the topic.
Sorry
But like,
about that.
that's because I'm excited.
I know, we're excited.
I'm excited. I get inappropriate. I apologize. Yeah, Jack. So.
Mad respect to everyone for the hard work that has gone into getting this project going, and continued respect for all the hard work yet to do. Thank you, Jax. Appreciate it.
You know, there's always a place at the table.
But Katrina, tell us about your Travel the Dead before we like crazily interrupted you.
No. It was no. I love that interruption. So Travel the Dead is the YouTube show that I do with my best friend Heather Taddy, who was on Paranormal State with me. She was also on Alien Highway, so she has a background in studying UFOs as well. And it honestly just came about because of the pandemic. And it was like, and I'm sure you guys know this too, like we get emails from all over all the time. It's never stopped about coming in and please investigate my space. And so we've had a private group for years, and we kind of reserved it just for like really, really severe hauntings that we do behind the scenes. We don't really talk about it. But the pandemic hit and we were at home, and I kept having this influx of emails being like, you can have the location for as long as you want. No one's coming here, do whatever. And so then I was just going to go with me, myself, and a camera. And then it was that realization of, I'm really tired of being by myself. Because it was like, 10 months at that point of pandemic. And so I asked Heather if she wanted to come, and she was like, yes, I'll be there. And, then we had met this, our friend Kat Croft, who's a filmmaker, and Kat came and filmed us. And we just had so much, it was one of those things of just like having so much fun doing it. And Heather and I love working together. And I don't know why, but we had always been waiting for someone to give us permission to work together further. Like it was such a weird thing. And I've noticed that's something I do. I keep waiting for permission to like do things I want to do. And so we were like, why don't we just do it? So we went out and we filmed a bunch of other investigations and started putting them up on YouTube. And it's funny, you were asking about like, how do you do the funding? How do you get creative? What's interesting about Travel the Dead, it is a very small team, like 3 or 4 of us. That's it. It's so small. And for production, it's all hands on deck. What's interesting about it is nobody has gotten paid. It's all been self-funded. And when we talk about that, when we're like, okay, well, what is everybody's goals? What would you want out of this to make you happy? What everyone has said repeatedly is they're just happy to be doing something that a network doesn't control, because we all work in television, and not that, and I hate to paint this picture that the network is this big bad wolf, because that's not what I'm trying to say. But it's the same if like anybody's in a creative field and you sign a deal where somebody else is like kind of looking over that project. And you kind of lose ownership of it a little bit. Like I don't own any of the shows I've ever been on. Like those are commissioned shows by the network. And so they always have a say in it, which is fine. I mean, there's very smart people working at these networks who know what they're doing and know how to make a great show. At the same time, it's just nice to be able to step away from that and to be like, you know what? I can just do what we want to do for this investigation, and we don't have to worry about that. And so it's been a nice break for everybody. And so we haven't had to get like creative that way because everybody who's there wants to be there. But I'd imagine, one of the amazing things that came out of doing Travel the Dead, which I wasn't expecting, and I don't know if that's weird or not, but we had like this influx of locations being like, please come and investigate. And what's very cool and what I'm very proud of is that there was a lot of locations that are like, we would never let anyone else come in. but the way you and Heather conduct yourselves, we want you guys to come, because Heather and I aren't jesters. Like, we don't hype, like Travel the Dead is very real, very gritty. If you're looking for overhyped, I'm possessed kind of stuff, you're not going to find it there. That's not what that show is. It's very much like a look behind the curtain of what it is to be an investigator and how that affects us. And so I'm really proud that, you know, locations and clients are seeing that and trusting us and offering us that invitation to come into their space, you know. So yeah, it's been great. Like, we all just want to keep doing it. But as you guys know, it's expensive. Like like funding yourself is very expensive.
Travel is expensive. Just the gas alone is expensive. Like
oh yeah.
But it's so one of the things that I remember, like we've both had people like pitch things back and forth to us. And I remember for a while when it was like, you know, the paranormal teams were all the rage, where they were trying to like put teams together, like just grab people from all over the place and just throw them together. But the thing that you cannot fake is a genuine friendship of people who are in it together and clearly support one another, know each other's quirks, like, and have a chemistry. And I think that's also one of the great strengths with Travel the Dead, is like, you two are good friends.
Yeah, thank you.
You bond over music, you respect one another, you support one another, and it comes through. And that makes it such a humane, heartening experience. Like, you're in these scary places, and yeah, there's the spooky side of things, but you're also seeing just a model of what a good friendship is like.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Michelle. Yeah, we find that really special too. And Heather and I just like love being together. Like, it's just, she's actually the only person. I don't like sharing rooms with people. Right. On Paranormal State, I don't know how much I'll get into it, but I'll just say there were some questionable business tactics happening. And because we were so new, we didn't realize this is shady. Like, this isn't supposed to, right. Yeah. So what they would do is they would be like, you're all women, you can all share one hotel room together. It's a multi-million-dollar show. There was no need for that. Yeah. But I say this because me, Elfie, and Heather would always have to share a room together. And I hate sharing rooms. But to this day, including my husband, Heather is like the only person that I'm like, I don't hate the next morning after sharing a room together. Like, I actually want more time with her, you know, where it's like my husband, I'm like, just don't talk to me for like an hour and a half.
Oh yeah. Okay. Like this, I'm sure I'm not giving anything away. There are some people who wake up and like they're raring to go. Yeah. And there are some people where it like takes maybe 2 hours for like really like the train to start really rolling down the tracks. And that is Katrina.
Yes.
And you just learn that, like, let that person have their space. The thing is it's very difficult to do that when there's like a time thing and like a film thing going on. And so like poor Katrina is like trying to like desperately trying to function. And you can just see like her zombie walking out of the room.
Yeah, I'm not so bad. No, my husband and I just had this conversation. I think it was Wednesday, because I was telling him how much I appreciate that he understands that about me. Because, and as much as I love my mother, she's never understood that about me, and she's always given me grief about it. And so I was saying to my husband, I so appreciate that you understand when I wake up, regardless of what time I wake up, like that you gotta like leave me alone for a couple hours. Like, don't talk to me, don't ask me questions, don't hug me. I can't handle it. And we were saying how it's like evil Katrina hasn't left the building yet. Like, she's still like there's not enough light in my body yet, you know. So
yeah. I lucked out with Paranormal State because since I was sequestered from stuff, and it was important to be sequestered, I usually had my own little hotel room. And the other thing is I have PTSD. So if you have somebody sleep near me or like wake me unexpectedly, I can't always guarantee that I'm not coming up off the bed to like just grab them by the throat. Like, that is something that's happened.
Oh, just like a natural reaction.
Yeah, like at certain points. So like I've got to be like really careful about like sleep situations, because it's like, let me explain. Think of me as a Vietnam vet who did not leave the war behind. And it might be a different circumstance, but like the same sort of stuff that you've seen on TV, like that will happen. So you just want to like let me wake up in my own time.
Does it get worse when you travel, Michelle? Like, if you're not in your own room?
Yeah, it's got a lot to do. So hypervigilance is a part of it, and one of the things that I focus on is like, I hyper focus on like the sounds and the changes in my environment. I actually have started to realize that some of my hypervigilance is part of my superpower with the psychic stuff. I am super keyed into like layers of just sound and sense and like everything, and like the psychic, it extends to my psychic senses too. So if I get triggered, I basically remote view the entire building that I'm in.
Wow.
And have been able to like find that like I'm laying there and like I now know everything that's happening in that room, and like I basically go, that's fine, not a threat, can go back to sleep. But it's a huge, I mean, I've had it since I was 6 months old. Like you die of congestive heart failure, they bring you back, they do surgery on you, it kind of messes you up.
Yeah. Wow.
But I mean, you're right, that is kind of a superpower in your field.
Under the right circumstances, but
yeah.
And also like knowing that like there's just like guardrails around certain experiences.
Yeah.
But like, I definitely lucked out into getting my own space. So it might have like stuck with me.
Does it get worse when you travel as well? Like, you know, do you have trouble sleeping and like when you're on set in general, Katrina?
Yeah, I normally can't get to bed the night before. So as much as I try so hard to be a day walker, and it just, I'll like get it right for maybe a couple weeks. But my natural rhythm is I am a night person, always have been. I just need to get to the point in my life where I accept it, because I still try to fight it. You know, because like the world is like, oh, you can't be that way.
Join the
like,
dark.
Yeah, I know.
Very cozy over here. Yeah. Cookies and cocoa.
I know. Well, I was very before the pandemic, I would do my grocery shopping at like 1 a.m, because that's what worked for me. And like, you know, now that doesn't, the 24-hour stores don't really exist in my area anymore. But I do get really, it's like I can't sleep the night before, and then it throws me off. And you know, they always want to, you know, production because of daylight and because of everything. You got to start at like 8 a.m, 7 a.m, and it's like to be camera ready. You know, add another 2 hours to that for me, which is weird because I normally look like a hot mess on camera.
But no, the exact opposite. Let me say that I have always, as someone who had a supermodel for an aunt, your makeup game
thank you.
Shows under the circumstances you had to apply stuff and expect that stuff to stick and still look good with no touch-ups for 8 to 12 hours of just running your butt right. Your makeup game has always been amazing.
Thank you.
Like that is a superpower that like, I don't find it superficial. I think that makeup and, like the way that we choose to present our bodies and dress ourselves is a part of like, you know, empowering and embodying ourselves. And I've always admired it.
Thank you. Yeah, I love makeup artistry. I used to I trained as a makeup artist, and I worked as one very briefly, and I realized I didn't like doing it as a profession as far as doing people's faces for like weddings or events, because there's a weird pressure with it that I didn't enjoy, especially for something like a wedding. It was like too much pressure for me. But what's funny is in high school, when I started like really developing my skills, my girlfriends would be like, oh, can you do my makeup? And I'd be like, yeah. And they would come in the next day with the makeup still on, and they're like, I couldn't get it off. I'm like, I'm like, if I do your makeup, it's staying on.
Yeah, no, seriously, that stuff would not budge. And we needed it to not budge. I remember like, because I was still, there was a little bit, pardon me, there was a little bit of pressure for me to present more femme on Paranormal State, especially. Like, and I was used to it at that point. Like the documentaries I'd done before, like at one point they were like, we got to pick one, like boy or girl. And I was like, but never mind. You know what? This is a conversation. So like, I just like, I can do my makeup.
Yeah.
But, like, finding stuff that would stick for the whole day, or these days, like finding any eye makeup that like holds up underneath a silk face mask for however many hours I'm doing those workers, I just gave up.
Yeah, I bet Cursed Cosmetics has something. Cursed Cosmetics we're going to be working with in season 2, and they're an amazing brand, and they specialize in like that kind of stuff.
Maybe I will have to at least do one episode in my old school goth drag, because the other thing is for goths, boys, girls, not boys, not girls, we all wore eyeliner and stuff. Like that was part of the aesthetic. It wasn't gendered. It was about like kind of putting on your war paint. Well, putting on your face.
Yeah.
Katrina, did you ever have a goth phase? I'm curious, just because we've talked about it on a lot of the lives, and I just curious.
Not outwardly. So like little pieces, like as far as like if we're talking fashion or something, I would have little pieces. But as far as my heart is a little goth heart.
Maybe that's why
probably. Like I feel very much, it's funny, since I was very, very little, and I'm pretty eclectic with my religious beliefs, my spiritual beliefs, but since I was very, very little, it was always like I felt so pulled to nature-based practices, and just I felt like that's what made sense for my soul. I don't know how else to explain it. It just felt very connected to it. So I didn't, it wasn't like I was, dressing goth or anything, but definitely floated in those circles for sure.
No, you're definitely one of those people where, like, I remember pulling stunts behind the scenes of Paranormal to just sort of like get you to realize, like, no, I might be working as the psychic, but you are very clearly keyed into this stuff as well. Like, don't assume that just because, here is this box labeled psychic and it's shiny and has like special effects, that you don't also have some really impressive abilities.
Yeah, I think it was always the label that freaked me out, because on Paranormal State, they, because I had disclosed during an early interview that I have dreams that come true, or I'll know things about somebody or a location or something, like something I would have no idea of knowing, and I would just know it. And so in the beginning of the show, if you go back and watch, everybody kind of has their own little label, and mine is interviewer. But that came about because originally they had it as psychic. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, oh, who said I was psychic? And they're like, oh, well, you said. I'm like, no, I have moments. I don't label myself as that guy, because I've always feel like I can't control it. It just happens when it happens, and it's just sort of is what it is. And I never felt comfortable labeling myself as that. And I remember I was told it caused a big problem because they had to pay, I think, like 10 grand for graphics to go back in and change like one label. So I guess it was a big deal in 06, like to have a label changed.
I remember, like, they were really about the labels, because it was the Messenger episode that was my first time like on camera, and they're like, what do we call you? And like this was an essential thing, and I was like, mystic, shaman. I led with vampire, and they're like, and they're just like, I was like, okay, occultist, and occultist was still a little too. They're like, and pretty much they were just psychic medium. It is. And I'm like, guess that's where we're at, because I gave a speech. I talked at Slippery Rock University, and I'm in the student newspaper on record, and I will hold to this. I was like, I hate the term psychic.
Oh, I did. I actually didn't know this.
Because it makes people think it's some sort of special freaking thing. And I think that these abilities are just things that people have. And like when you put a label on it, and it's like we've got this sort of stereotype of like, I can read your mind from a distance. Like it makes people who have legitimate abilities just discount them.
Yeah.
And be like, well, I'm not that special. But yeah. So it's one of those cases where the label I find to be somewhat problematic, and also was just like, guess I give up, because like I'm just tired of fighting.
There's also a bias against it though too. I actually just commented, somebody on my YouTube page made a comment about this, saying something, and I'm paraphrasing, but they were like, I would never trust an investigator that works with a psychic. Now, while I can understand that, and I'm not trying to put this person on blast by any means, I just think, and what I said in my comment was, well, like, we have to understand there's been a bias in the media for like hundreds of years at this point against psychics, because you have the Fox sisters, then you have Houdini, whose like mission was to call them out. And were there fakes? Absolutely. There were fakes. Are there still fakes? Absolutely. But that doesn't mean that every single person who has an extrasensory ability is a fake. There's just, it's the kind of, that goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning, that there will always be quote unquote ambulance chasers. I think in every field, there will always be somebody who claims to be something that they're not. And we've certainly seen that in psychics, but for the most part, though, there is this level that we see, especially with you, Michelle, and other people like Cindy Keza, I think is really talented too. that there's something that exists where you guys are able to tap in. And I think ESP especially is going to be something we have figured out in like the next century, or at least there's going to be more concrete evidence for it.
Yeah.
I am myself skeptical of most people who claim to be psychic until like Cindy offered me a ride after the Haunted Salem Live, and we had like just a little like off the books conversation, and just in like 5 minutes I was like, she is talking about things that unless she has experienced them, she cannot make them up. Like, this is someone who, and like people were giving her issues. You know, you get body shamed for the other reason. People were giving her like, oh, she's fake because she was so made up, like so on point, like just, but like that was clearly like part of her power, and just like looking that put together.
Yeah.
I know she's on a journey with that, partly I think because people were being so mean to her about it, like acting like somehow she was fake and superficial because she was good at makeup and liked to look good on camera.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing, because again, I go back to, I can't think of one male colleague I've worked with that gets that same level of scrutiny about their appearance, if they get any comments at all about their appearance. And usually it's just, oh, you look good. Like, oh, I like that shirt you wore. It's always complimentary. It's never a tear down. And it's just such a weird thing to me, because I'm always like, we're in 2023 and we're still doing this to people. And it's also, you know, I grew up in the 90s where it was very heavily, you know, heroin chic was like end all be all. And did that affect every single kid that grew up in that area? I would make an argument it did on some level, whether we realize it or not. And I just kind of think, I'm like, you know, it's so strange to me that we teach kids not to bully each other, yet here we are giving prime examples of how to do it. And because we do it, we're encouraging it and we're saying it's okay. And then we get mad at kids who do it. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I'm just like, gosh, can we just not tear people down for?
Yeah, the only times where I've heard from guy friends that they've gotten that sort of level of shaming or like course correction is if they have a gender non-conforming presentation.
Oh yeah.
Like if they like a little bit of makeup, or if their clothes are a little too a little too girly or a little too something, like where there's like, could you be a little less swishy, please? Like where there's like definitely some stuff behind the scenes with that. So it's very much like, here is this sort of like box that we want people to fit in. And like there is, I don't even know, like I think somewhere actually hearing some of the reasoning of like, well, we don't want the audience to think blah, or we don't want the audience to do blah. And I'm like, well, if we don't represent everybody, the audience is never going, you know, the mystical audience is never going to change its mind about what it expects to see on camera in the first place.
Yeah.
And you're assuming that your audience is this weird homogenous construction that doesn't also involve people who are differently shaped and who sometimes wear makeup and who sometimes don't wear makeup and maybe wear a weird colored Hawaiian shirt, and that should be fine. And who cares?
Well, it's also a thing of, so I take, so my background is music and theater. So I've always kept up with them, even if they weren't like, you know, in front of the scenes. So I still take acting classes because I love it and I hope to go back to it in some way. But the one acting class I'm in now, my teacher, he was saying how, I guess at the time he was heavier than he wanted to be. And he had booked a job, and he was saying how he wanted to lose weight for that job because he knew they were having press coming up and it was a pretty big job. And I don't know who it was on the team, if it was a producer or a director, but they were basically saying like, wait, no, don't change. Like, we don't want you to change because, and you know, they were kind of like, I mean, do what you want, but also just know you don't have to change to have this job, because here's the thing is that there's people at home watching this who look like you and they want to see themselves and they want to know that it's okay to be successful and that you don't have to look a certain way to do it, you know? And I thought that was so cool that was a conversation that was had, you know?
Yeah. And that's so rare. But I do think that it's changing little by little. And The mumblecore movement is huge in like indie films, like Noah Baumbach films, Greta Gerwig, you know, those kinds of films where we're like seeing people how they actually look, you know, like when you go to the motherfucking grocery store, unless you're in like Beverly Hills, and even then sometimes,
yeah,
I speak from experience, like that is not what people look like. This is, we look tired. We got zits. You know, there's a lot, like there's all of this humanity here that should be represented appropriately. Like I feel like that's something that I feel passionately about with the show, is that we show it all. Like we show everybody cried at Inspiration House. Everybody has a meltdown. Everybody has like loses their shit. Everybody has too much energy work, and then like, you know, they say things that they don't
wake up all put together and perfectly refreshed getting out
of bed. Actually, there are so many times, exactly, where like somebody would come in and I would be crying or something because of something that happened energetically, and I would be like, somebody pick up the camera and make sure you're getting this, because that's reality. Like that's what we're trying to share is reality.
This is fun. I so appreciate this conversation. So refreshing, being and claiming our true selves and celebrating that, especially in an industry and a culture that shoves us in boxes. Y'all are awesome.
Which I will say, that's my favorite thing about cons. I don't know if people in the chat haven't been to a con, go to a con, because it is like the most celebratory thing of just being who you are, regardless of gender or orientation or body shape or anything. People are just
players at conventions are just the coolest.
It is so cool. It was like the first time I went to a con, I was like, oh my gosh, like my people, like I love it.
Yes, Robin.
One of the things that I really like about indie work in every aspect, because like I've worked in publishing and I've worked in music and I've worked in TV, and yes, there's good execs, but like there's just sort of like this culture of an expected idea of how things should look.
Yeah.
And usually it starts as marketing, but I think sometimes it turns into a prison. And being able to be my own boss and my own creative director for things, it's why I have always reserved the right to work with publishers, but also publish some of my own books. And to like all of my music I have always kept for myself. Like I have never signed to a label. I've been offered early on especially, and I wanted to just be able to do my own thing in my own time. And it's also why I make the games that I do. Like I think creative people, while we can fit ourselves into the structure necessary for a sales and marketing push for our work, which is necessary for it to make like any kind of significant profit, at least in the structure that we currently have, also need desperately to reserve a space for themselves where they have no boundaries and no expectations, where they get to be creative purely for the sake of creative work, and that there's no sense that you have to make a hustle or a profit off of everything that you do, that it still has value just because you made it and had fun doing it.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, one thing that you said, Katrina, earlier was about like this feeling that you needed permission to do Travel the Dead or whatever. And I really resonate with that, because I mean, being in LA and being around all of these like seemingly all powerful dudes who like control the whole mother trucking thing, that kind of like solidified that even more, that I need somebody to tell me. And you know, I actually, before Michelle and I had our initial talk about like, you know, when I pitched this idea to her, it was like, you know, I was going to go the traditional producer route. Like I was literally putting together a pitching package, like as you do. And my friend's show who was a producer, got their show greenlit. And I was like, we're going to do this. But my heart knew that wasn't going to be what I wanted in the end. And it's a good thing though that Michelle also was just like, well, here's the caveat. Like I want to do this. This sounds great, but we have to self-produce. And I think in a way, like you kind of gave me permission. But really we have to remember that we have to give ourselves permission. And that's the hard thing.
Yeah, you still said yes was the thing. Like you could have been like, no, that's too precious for me. Nope.
Yeah.
Because it's not the easy route by any means.
No, it was that all came from it was funny because it's a new realization of, I didn't even realize I was doing it in my life. So when my band broke up, we broke up at the end of 2018. And as a writer, I felt really, really stuck. And oh, sorry, my dog is freaking out.
That's okay.
Let me just text my husband so he can take him out. So I felt really, really stuck as a writer. And a friend, I've been connected with her online for, I don't know. She was a fan of Paranormal State. So we became like Facebook friends, and she lived in my area. She had a cooking show, and yes, it is Batman, my dog barking. So we became connected on Facebook. We had always talked about getting together because we lived in the same area. We both worked in television, never happened. But I always thought she was so cool. And I'm like, oh, I just want to be her friend. And she had posted something about her spouse being like a music producer. And I knew they were in the area. So I checked out, and they were talking about their spouse's mentorship program, who ended up being Barb Morrison, Barb Morrison is the producer on my music. And Barb has produced like records for Debbie Harry and everything. And just like, like all-star producer, right? So I took Barb's mentorship program, and I said to them, I'm like, look, I feel so stuck. I hate everything I'm writing. Nothing is working. Like, oh, I suck, blah, 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 like all that stuff you go through. And Barb said to me, they said, why are you trying so hard to control it? I was like, what? Well, what do you mean? They were like, just let it be whatever it's going to be, Katrina. Like, just stop. And it was this like aha moment. And then another conversation, it was kind of like two conversations that made this happen. They were asking me, how do you do the ghost stuff? How do you do that and not get scared? And there were a couple reasons I gave them, but the one that struck them was I was saying how I didn't want to miss out on an opportunity because I was scared. And I'm like, I don't want my fear to win. And Barb was like, wow, what a great life lesson. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, wait, I'm not doing that in life. I'm like, I'm only doing it in haunted houses. And so it was like those two things during this mentorship program where I'm like, why do I feel like I need permission to do the things I love, to do the things I've been doing since I was a kid, to do the things I want to do? Like, why do I have this idea in my head that I need somebody to give me a key to be able to do it? It's a really weird thing. I personally don't understand fully where it comes from, but just having that mentorship program with Barb, it was a very transformative moment, because we were also shooting Travel the Dead at the time. And it was like kind of these two things happening in conjunction of just doing what you want to do because you want to do it and you love it. And but it's a funny thing, because when I tell that story, so many people are like, yeah, I do that too. And I wonder where it comes from.
Yeah. Can we see
Katrina Kim on the show? That a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts with that. No promises, but I mean, also we live in an age of just Skyping in with technology and like doing remote stuff. Like that's actually my favorite part about Travel the Dead is I sit on the fence with the psychic stuff for me. Of am I just Sherlock? Like I go to a place and can just pick so much up. Again, hypervigilance. Like there's a level of paying attention to details that I do because of things that most people don't. So is it psychic, or is it just I'm really observant at a Sherlock level, or is it psychic? Which is why the blindfold was always a big thing. But remote viewing is so freeing because I'm not even there. There's no smell I can pick up from the location. There's no I can just accidentally touch the handrail and get a sense of its shape and be like, oh, this is probably 19th century. Like because I don't know if people have noticed, but there's a lot of information crammed into my brain too.
Don't say.
But so just sitting there with a black screen and hearing like Katrina or Cat Croft or somebody just like, I'm moving into another room, or like, what do you pick up here? And then just the one that blew my mind was, I wish I had sketched that stupid little stone wall. Because I'm like, why am I seeing this stone wall? Like, this is what I'm seeing. Like, maybe it was the foundation for something, but like it's about yay big, and there's a cup. I don't understand what I'm looking at. And you show me the picture and I'm like, how?
It's very bizarre.
I don't know how it works. Like I was promised that science made sense and it would be able to like explain to me in a nice, neat package that this is what reality is. And there's a science nerd who got a 35 on the ACT and me who's very mad.
So for anybody who hasn't seen yet, when Michelle comes on to Travel the Dead, we remote her in. So she's doing all remote viewing. And from working with you for like 17, 18 years at this point, I can say it's the most impressive work I've seen you do. And Michelle will sketch out furniture. She will sketch out the buildings. She will sketch out the layout of the buildings. As we're walking through a door and she has no idea where we are, she's like, oh, there's some like door that's looks this way. And we're like, what the hell? How does she know this? Or actually, you don't know this. I forgot to tell you this. We just did a location a couple weeks ago. We had Michelle remote view for that one. And as I'm standing on sawdust, Michelle is like, sawdust? I don't know. I keep getting the smell of sawdust as I'm standing on it. Also, and I don't want to give this away, but we had, because I actually filled you in this time. I remember. Yeah. But Michelle.
It just means that I watch them like, oh, holy crap. Like, I surprised anybody else.
We were at this location where I guess one of our witnesses was very afraid to come forward with really important information. Michelle did this amazing reading, picked up like everything. When we had disclosed it to the caretaker of the property, she disclosed it to this witness we had. Because of Michelle's reading, this witness came forward with information that he's been holding in for 50 years because he didn't think anybody knew about it. And he was like, I just thought because of what your psychic said, maybe we could help this spirit that's still here.
Yeah.
And he disclosed some pretty wild stuff to us.
Yeah. I mean, I just have to like for one quick second, just say that, fast forward, fast forward, rewind. So whatever, go back in time. And I remember like just getting into watching paranormal TV shows and being like, okay, I'm seeing these folks on screen and this new thing where there's like a psychic that comes in in every show, which is cool. But I come from like a lineage of empathic psychic folks. And so I kind of had an intuition just about Michelle. And I was like, that one's real. I know that one's real. And then some of the other ones, I won't say who, but I was just like, could go either way. But like, I knew for sure. And that I think that's, just to be able to work with somebody who has that, caliber of reading. I mean, that's just remotely. We do the same thing, Katrina. We don't tell Michelle jack shit. We just the word.
It's essential because otherwise I will just get caught in the loop of like, what am I reading that I just front loaded myself about? Like, and I get in my own way at that point.
Well, it's also then we would throw you under the bus. Like that's the thing. Like it's people are going to automatically think you're fake. And it's just like, I know you're the real deal. And it's like, I want to give you as much credibility as we possibly can.
Well, I remember on Paranormal State, there was at least one of the producers who was just sure that psychics had to be fake. Like couldn't understand why I wouldn't fake stuff because clearly all of it was fake. And literally just spent time trying to figure out how I was doing it. To the point where like he thought I had a listening device in my car.
Oh, really?
He actually like he was trying to see if I was like park because he would have me park farther and farther and farther. And why I was like, just leave me in a hotel room. Like I don't want to be like in some abandoned lot where you literally forget about me for 6 hours on a llama farm in Central Pennsylvania. Like, because I can guarantee I'm not cheating. I don't have spyware where I'm like trying to listen to the conversation. I don't care.
Yeah.
I want to go in, get out, do my thing. If there's one thing that I feel must be frustrating for people who work with me, because it's a little frustrating for me, is because I go in like with no boundaries, I just have to cast the net wide and pick whatever I pick up. And I swear sometimes my psychic brain is a squirrel and it's just like, ooh, architecture. And I will spend like 15 minutes like describing like the freaking wainscoting and be like, oh, and there's a ghost.
Also, I've been meaning to tell you, there's also Yeah.
Well, it's great that there was on Portals, there was one producer, he's very, very skeptical. You made him cry.
I remember like kind of hearing, and I didn't know the context of like, oh, I just made somebody bawl. I'm so sorry. I'm just in the moment and keep doing the thing that I'm doing. It was a truly gut wrenching moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's for context for anybody, it was because Michelle did such a good job on hit. It was a very tragic story that Michelle hit on. And this producer, he was a lovely person, but very skeptical. And because Michelle like nailed this story to like perfect detail, I think it just brought up a lot of like, what is this stuff? And is it real? And oh my God. And what if it is real? And he got very, very emotional because of it.
I mean, I think that's really the scary thing about psychics is if it's real, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like what does that change about how you function? I know I've lost friends, like especially as a younger person, where they're like, wait, you knew I was doing that, like blah blah blah. I'm like, yeah, I try not to spy, but sometimes I passively pick stuff up. And then they're like, do you know what I'm doing in my? I'm like, okay, look, you're making noise anyway, so like really, like who cares? And also, there's a certain etiquette if you are that sensitive that you just learn to have. Like we create little artificial boundaries. That's important. If you have a roommate situation, you don't need to be psychic to know that they're doing things behind closed doors that they probably don't want to talk about. And but like the implications of like, but you could spy on me, and I'm like, why would I want to? Don't care, just go do your thing.
There was a comment in here. Lonnie came back and he said, I will come back and hypnotize Katrina. Fine, talk me into it.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So
I've never had it done. I would love to do it.
So have you seen Hellier?
No, not yet.
Hellier? Okay, so Lonnie Scott was the hypnotist in Hellier. So he's used to being in kind of like the weird, he does hypnotism that's just like for quitting smoking and things like that. But he also like by night, he does, like the like paranormal, more weird shit. And just like Michelle said earlier, like, I don't know if I would trust anybody else to do something like this. And you are more than welcome to come go down the rabbit hole with us if you feel called to it. At any point, we would love to collab with you. But no pressure. But like we would love
Lonnie also had like a very impressive pedigree and a bunch of other magical and occult things. And 100%. You should look up look up Lonnie Scott and just sort of like see, because he is a very impressive human being with a lot of additional credentials that make me feel not only that I'm safe, but that he is safe for like what may come out in those circumstances, including because you are agreeing to be put in a vulnerable space and a vulnerable state. And in our case, in a haunted location. So somebody who just has, your basic certification in hypnotherapy might not be equipped to like hold the space to make sure that there's no bleed over from the energy or the spirits. Like you're in a place with someone who knows multiple levels of how to keep you on track and safe for the best experience possible.
Wow.
We love you too. But no,
I don't hold back when I think that there's a genuine person who does good work. Like I make no apologies for complimenting people.
The other thing is, even if not just Katrina, but anybody, if you're wanting to do something like this, Lonnie Scott is wonderful. And one thing that I tell people who are like, oh no, I'm afraid to get hypnotized in that kind of situation, is that truly he sticks with like the integrity of the experiments that he does on set. So like there was one that we came up with in one of the shows, and he was like, I'm not basically said, I'm not going to do that. And we were so glad that he said that, because it would have the accuracy of the experiment wouldn't have been, it would have made us look bad, him look bad. It just was not a good experiment. And so I appreciate somebody who's willing to say that, like willing to say, hey, this is what I am willing to do. This one doesn't quite make sense. Go to that
really
website.
Trust people who are able to say no, and who like, because it shows a lot of work. Anyway, we are getting we've gone over time. And I don't want to keep us for like a full 90 minutes. I don't know about anybody else, but I need to go off to the little bats room pretty soon.
my God. Katrina, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you.
You
Truly.
too.
I have watched, a lot of your shows and really I have like in my mind, I was like, someday we're going to talk and someday we're going to talk. And like, look, here it is right now. Yeah. And I admire your work. And I think you're huge. You are really important for young girls or non-binary female presenting folks who want to get into this field, because you really kind of, in network TV, you kind of corner the market. And I think there are a lot of little girls who like know who you are and they're like, oh yeah, that's Katrina Weidman. When I have, stuff that we're doing, we're like watching all the shows to do research and stuff. And it's really nice to see that, because there are, like you said, more women, but there aren't as many. And so I really appreciate you being in that space. And
thank you.
Others. Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Fearless and ferocious. And I don't know if anybody's noticed, I don't have time for fake people. I do not. I want a friend and I say that like you are a person that I like and respect, and
thank you.
Like that's not anything other than exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I mean, obviously, samesies for you, Michelle and Fen. It was so nice to finally meet you.
Our little like magic thing, like we did it.
I know.
We keep rolling, like we've now got like that downward momentum. So now it's like stretch goal time. And we've got 30 hours, 32 hours, 34 hours. I can't count.
Well, yes, absolutely. Congratulations from me to you guys on reaching your goal, surpassing your goal. And thank you to everybody who supported them, because I will say this to the day I die. It is so important to support independent creators, because if we don't, then we're just inundated with really bad media that nobody really wants. So
watch Travel the Dead. It's up on
you.
YouTube. Look up Katrina's music. It is fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes, which I actually want to talk to you about sometime.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I did be looking up those lyrics and I was like,
oh, my lyrics. I know. My mom is like, she's like, what does that lyric mean? Because my songs are kind of dark, and my mom is like, they're very sexual. Just like
they're so sexual.
Yeah.
But yeah, some other time I'd love to dive into that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, congratulations, guys. I cannot wait to see what you guys have planned. I know it's going to be amazing.
Thank you, Katrina. Thank you for helping us make it to over. We're over. Holy shit.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you
for your time. Thank you, everyone in the chat. Look at all this. Something's sitting here and I don't know what it is.
I don't know. Do